Hi, we're here at the MarshBerry 360 Forum for an expert perspective with Vinnie Hager at the Baldwin Group. I'm Phil Trem, president of MarshBerry. Vinnie, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the process you went through when you sold the business to the Baldwin Group. When you thought about doing a transaction, what were your top must-haves going into a deal process?
For us, it was a lot, mainly culture. We had spent years cultivating a culture of becoming a sales organization. We had gone from a marketing company over to a BOR company. So it was important to us that they had the resources to continue to back that up, and also our processes and how we processed our methodology, how we processed onboarding new customers. All of that was really important to us. But culture, most importantly, we wanted to continue to have that sales culture.
And you guys were specifically very niche focused. So when you talk about process, you needed to find a partner that allowed you to continue to operate, getting business, working through, supporting and servicing business in the same way.
Correct. Being a specialty broker and focusing on real estate in particular, it's a different way of operating. We dealt with condo boards instead of individual, decision makers. So it's a whole different process. And they have expectations that are vastly different than just a regular, say, manufacturing company or somebody else who's a single decision type maker. You're dealing with a board of directors. So multiple personalities, they change constantly. You're dealing with gatekeepers, et cetera. So it was important that we continued to operate the way that we were successful in order for us to continue to have that success.
You had mentioned that the last 3 years prior to doing a transaction, you had grown 30%, at least 30% organically each of those last 3 years. What advice would you give to an agency owner who's growing aggressively but not thinking about doing a transaction at this time?
Well, I think it's important to look at how are you going to staff that type of a growth. If you grow at 15% a year over 5 years, you're going to double. If you're doing it at 30%, you're doubling almost every 3 years. So, taking a good portion of those profits that we're making, reinvesting in both our technology to continue to stay advanced, as well as the people to make sure that we could handle the onboarding and all the business that was coming and that we're expecting to continue to come.
Yeah, so it's not that they necessarily have to sell or that they should consider selling, but it's almost that the amount of reinvestment is more aggressive than what you would typically do to be able to sustain that level of growth.
Yeah, I would think that we were a little bit different in the sense that we made sure, we knew the growth was coming, so we made sure we made that investment so that we could handle it. Otherwise, you're overburdening your staff, and then you're going to start to lose retention on the backside because they can't handle their new business as well as servicing the existing accounts. And you don't want to do all that work for the new business and then have it lost out the back door.
So thinking about the sale process, you made a decision to have an advisor. Give us a little bit of insight as to why did you think an advisor was necessary, and ultimately why did you choose to work with MarshBerry?
So, having an advisor, particularly in the market that we did a transaction in 2021 when was the biggest transaction year, I think, on record, right? Yep. So there was a flurry of activity. There was a lot of concern in the marketplace about, capital gains going on, et cetera. And we didn't know the players, so we thought we were interested in going the private equity route. So it was important for us to have somebody who knew the players that would be a good cultural fit for what we were doing and how, what our business plan was and what our message was to the marketplace. Ultimately, we didn't go that way, and we partnered with the Baldwin Group, which was a publicly traded company, but was a unique opportunity for us since they had just gone public 2 years prior, had no presence in our state. So it was a really good refresh for us to bring a new market into the area that people weren't familiar with, but it was a national brand. I had been a member of MarshBerry. I started with Task and moved into Apex. I had been working with you all for 25 years. So that decision ultimately was never a decision. We were just going to go with you guys.
Well, thank you, Vinnie. We appreciate the trust you place in our firm, and congratulations on an incredible run with the Baldwin Group.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Good to be
Thank
back.
you.